all the metrics are broken. Price earnings doesn't really matter quarter to quarter. You got to look at a 5-year trailing PE in order to understand a Bitcoin treasury company. The gains on Bitcoin is the revenue itself. If there is that underlying business that's profitable, if it's Tesla or GameStop or whoever that can then buy more Bitcoin without profits, then they should have a higher MNAV because they're able to acquire more Bitcoin.
What happens when people realize that these companies have the most pristine collateral, the best collateral ever? Like, they have the money. Like, give me money so I can buy better money. On a rolling 1-year basis, MSTR has outperformed the Mag 7 stocks on every single day over the past year. That's just a fact.
Welcome back to Bitcoin Season 2. We're talking Bitcoin Treasuries with the Bitcoin Treasuries guys, Ed and Tim. Welcome to the show, Ed and Tim.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks for having us.
So it is a big summer for Bitcoin Treasury companies, digital asset treasury companies broadly, call them DATs, call them Bitcoin Treasury Cos. You guys both doubled down on covering the space this summer and the past year. What are each of you up to and focusing on right now?
Yeah, we're neck deep in our September 17th Bitcoin Treasuries Unconference. I recently left strategy, and the first call was to Tim. He said, "Hey, Tim, what are you up to?" He said, "I'm so glad you left strategy. I'm doing a conference in 6 weeks." And I said, "Well, I'm into torture, a little bit of masochism, and let's see if we can pull this off."
Yeah, same. I'm pretty much planning a conference, but no, it's fun. The Bitcoin Treasuries podcast was kind of an accidental thing that I put on an orange tie at the right time, and that turned into digital conferences, and that's now turning into a real life conference. So we're really excited to be able to really be together with the whole community, and Ed goes to 7,000 conferences a year, but for us mere mortals, it is really just a special time when everybody's together, and the space is growing to where it's kind of almost, unless you've been around for a long time, you kind of haven't met everyone. So it's great to just shake someone's hand and really be in the room and be able to feel what's going on, not just through your screen on your phone. So yeah, really excited.
Yeah, it's like Batman or Bane, where nobody cared who I was until I put on the tie. Okay, so let's. I'm going to throw a question at you. We're recording this on Saturday, the 30th of August, and as of right now, MicroStrategy is down. Now, this has caused rufflesome feathers online. I see some people complaining about it on Twitter or whatever. But I think maybe to frame this conversation, just what's going on with MicroStrategy being down right now, and then what does that indicate for the treasuries market broadly, do you think?
Yeah, before we answer that, Tim, do you want to give the disclaimer?
What you're about to hear may be amazing, but it's not financial advice. Back to you, and
this is not financial advice. This is three guys sitting, armchair ripping about, our thoughts on the market.
Yeah, and for those listeners that are listening after September 17th, what an amazing event that was, huh?
Unbelievable.
The shock, the celebrities that showed up, the lasers, the smoke, the balloons. It was just wow. I mean,
orange.
If you weren't there, I mean, you've probably heard about it. You missed it. So, anyways, I don't think anybody knows the answer to your question, which is kind of cool, right? It's always been that way in Bitcoin that, people that have been in, I bought my first Bitcoin in 2011, really didn't dive into it till maybe 15. And so that seems like a long time. And I don't know what I'm talking about. Someone who's been in Bitcoin a long time has not been in it for 40 years. They didn't learn from their grandfather and know their grandfather. And so it is a bunch of opinions. There's not a lot of accountability, and the people that kind of seem to know what they're talking about rise to the top a little bit, but no accountability. So the ideas of institutional money, retail money, what is causing, different coins or Bitcoin or the stocks to move up and down is just obsessing people. And I've come to the point, when you think it's going one way, I've come to the point where I just don't trust my feed. And whatever my feed says is always wrong. So I've become a complete contrarian investor. So when my feed is telling me Sailor's going bankrupt and the treasury stocks are going to zero and stuff, I'm throwing more money in just because I don't even trust my feed or myself anymore.
The counterfeit indicator. Yeah. I know. What's your take on the pulse in the market right now, Tim?
I just think it's super entertaining when, like, the biggest debate right now on X over the past day or two is someone posted about Fong buying $1 million or so, or $10,000, whatever the number was, of some preferred strategy stock. And then, so then you have people saying, is that even newsworthy, or is it a slow news day? But then if you actually look at the document, it's not Fong, it's like his kid bought it. So it's like, is it newsworthy? And then if it is newsworthy, it's not even always correct, right? So do your own research. The reality is, I thought a post from James Van Straten a couple of days ago was interesting. He said, strategy has always led Bitcoin. And like on the day, it was just some snapshot of strategy stock being up much more percentage-wise than Bitcoin. And it's like, well, these things are volatile. I think what people are starting to learn is they're like super volatile. So, if something's down 10, 20, 30, 60, 70%, maybe that's not the best time to like really go out the risk curve to like options or, make your own decisions. But it's like, it's volatile. So that's what we know.
Yeah, it's like, hey, suit coiners, welcome to Bitcoin. It's volatile. Nothing's changed. So I hear this, I haven't done this treatment as much on this podcast, but like about like the why of Bitcoin treasuries, there's treasury companies. And like, I hear this claim, like there's a lot of money out there that like can't necessarily buy spot BTC. It's locked out. I'm not like familiar with like where this money is, what it looks like, who these people are. Why are certain entities, I would say maybe more the institutional investor types, why are they buying these Bitcoin treasury companies?
So in certain jurisdictions, in certain countries, in certain corporate or institutional mandates, you can't buy Bitcoin. I mean, some percentage of retail investors through their Vanguard or whatever, they can't buy Bitcoin, but they can buy MicroStrategy, and they may be able to buy other Bitcoin equities. So I think that's been like an obvious answer for quite some time, continues to be. And even reflecting on my own journey a year or two ago, when I said the Bitcoin volatility is just like, it doesn't feel the same. I need more, right? So then you have leveraged Bitcoin. And I think that's just a natural for someone that's very comfortable with the volatility of Bitcoin and wants that performance that maybe they had 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. I think that makes a lot of sense as a progression.
Yeah, it's the unlocks, right? I mean, going back to 2011, where, I put a credit card into a Japanese website, to I don't even know if I bought it or not. I think it was sitting there on a spreadsheet. And then you got Coinbase, and then you get, 100 exchanges. And then you get, my neighbors, I present them with options. I say, you can do Coinbase. And they're like, nah, that sounds complicated. Okay, you could do Unchained. It's like, nah, I don't need that much. I can do River. That sounds pretty simple. Or you can do the ETF. And so it's unlocking it to all kinds of different markets. Even the Bitcoin ATMs is an unlock, but it's a sad unlock when you look at, but people use those ATMs like crazy. So unlocking it to more and more markets. And in this case, the treasuries is unlocking it to principally the fixed income markets, which is the $4 trillion unlock.
So how much are you guys, when it comes to like BitcoinTreasuries.net, I've got it pulled up here, like how much are you guys actually like participating in figuring out how to track these entities? Because I've spent my time in like trying to make sense of, wide data sets and try to like standardize them. And while I don't know all the esoteric stuff that goes into like TradFi filings and standardization. Like, I feel like even if we just look at Bitcoin treasury companies, like it's kind of hard to, it can be hard to compare them apples to apples on a spreadsheet. Like, what goes into this? What, like, tease this out for me? Like, what are some like things that kind of make it difficult to like equivocate, company A, B, and C together? I'll throw this to Tim.
Yeah, as you know, I was in the L2 space for a while, and the guys at Bitcoin Layers were just trying to compare all the L2s, and it was just this impossible task. And Rizzo and NVK are over at BitcoinTreasuries.net, who we partner with very closely to try to do the same thing over there. I hope I'm not front running anything, but they're coming out with kind of a scoring system. Even before I was trying to say, how can we measure these all? How can we compare them? And there just ended up being like 28 different metrics on, leadership team and where they're getting their debt and doing all this. So I think probably the best way to try to understand that and get your head around what the difference of them are is to come to New York on September 17th to the Bitcoin Treasuries Unconference. NYC. No, seriously though, it's like you have to meet the guys. You have to hear their story. Some of them have really good stories. Simon is a genius in the way he presents it, but some others are struggling with their story. Others are just taking a pure New York approach and raising money, and that could work as well. So it's in progress.
Yeah, on the scoring system. I wonder if there's a great way to score the operating business, right? Like per industry, what is the average or median or whatever word sort of multiple for valuing that? And how does that play together with the treasury? I saw a post a day or two ago that was, hey, all of our data is kind of user community driven. It's pulled from the community. I mean, make sure to dive deep and be aware that this information might be the best information available at the time, but it doesn't mean it's all correct. And so I think there's a lot of great work to do. And I think we're going to look back on this time and just be like, wow, I don't think we even know what a Bitcoin treasury company is. And right, Ed, I think you talk sometimes about a couple different buckets, right? Just having Bitcoin on your balance sheet, and that's great, versus a levered Bitcoin equity, actually doing the strategy. And then how does that, right? What's the ideal Bitcoin treasury company? Does it have a native Bitcoin sort of service or product or both? And is all the digital delivery and distribution the best? Can make an argument that it is. So what does all that look like? And I think we've seen a few things hit the market where it's like they kind of nailed that. And those companies may or may not have the same name as the current president of the United States. I mean, if you really do look at the presentations, it's like cell phone service, digital media, some of these ideas are take the person or the entity or the politics out of it. It's interesting for me to just think about.
Yeah, you have the extremes of ones that there is no real underlying business. They're just using a ticker, kind of like the REITs, right? Where it's just that's all they are. It's just a real estate investment trust. And then the other extreme, you have Tesla that is a small percentage of their treasury holdings, but they're both Bitcoin treasury companies. And at the end, what they're doing is protecting their melting ice cube, and so if it's a company that's just an all-in treasury company, they're buying Bitcoins, issuing shares, great. They're protecting their personal ice cube from melting over time. And then a Tesla on the other end is saying yeah, we noticed the ice cube is melting and we're going to protect that a little bit.
Hey, Will here with Blockspace Media. Did you know that we have individual feeds for all our shows? If you're watching the Mining Pod, Bitcoin Season 2, or the Court Show, be sure to check out the individual feeds. You can find him on your podcast player of choice, whether that be Spotify, Apple, YouTube, etc. Just type in Blockspace Media and you'll find all our shows pop up, or just type in the individual show name like The Mining Pod or Bitcoin Season 2. Be sure to hit that subscribe and give us a 5-star rating so we can continue to bring you the best content in Bitcoin.
We saw like the mining public company narrative start in 20 and 21. And some of these companies put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Like they put a lot. And even today, right now, I would say, mining companies, you say Marathon's got a lot, CleanSpark's got a decent position. Like the mining businesses are some of the, best Bitcoin capitalized businesses out there, but yet they don't seem to, for some reason, be like a part of like the Bitcoin Treasuries conversation. Why do you guys think that is? Like they're revenue generating, it's Bitcoin denominated. What's your read on like why the market seems to really like these other type of Bitcoin treasury companies and maybe not?
They were at first. I mean, at first they were spending the Bitcoin they were mining, right? And then they saw what Strategy was doing and said, wait a minute, let's keep the Bitcoin we're mining. We'll issue shares, we'll do ATM to pay the bills, and then we can, become a full HODL company. And so they made that transition probably later than they could have, right? And so they're stacking. I actually was on a 1-hour call yesterday talking to a guy about this, about why the mining companies lost their appeal, why everybody's over into the more traditional treasury companies and why the mining, and there really isn't a great answer for that. In case of Mara, they pivoted to be an energy company to get more institutional investment, and they've done that, but then they kind of lost the retail market a little bit. So are the mining companies good businesses? Absolutely. Are they well run? Absolutely. Do they have 20-year plans? Absolutely. But that doesn't always lead to retail hype. So having Bitcoin in the balance sheet as a mining company should get that same kind of multiple that other treasury companies have. But there's something that's sticking in the investors' minds that's not leading to that hype.
Yeah, I totally agree on the messaging, the media, the narrative, because you see the result of Saylor hitting podcasts for 5 years straight, half a decade of podcasts, and you can get there. But how many other Bitcoin Treasury executives are going to do that? Or need to do that, right? Maybe that's an open question. The aspect of you look down the list of these companies, at least half of them, probably 3/4 of the companies in the top 100, I'm just making up numbers, not financial advice, they haven't even really publicly said anything as far as like trying to be in the media or even tell their story. So is that right? Maybe that's a different bucket. It's a leveraged Bitcoin equity, or it's a Bitcoin treasury company with or without leverage, whichever bucket it's in, with no storytelling or narrative around it at all. And then what happens if TradFi 6 months or 6 years from now goes, wait a second, we value like a lot of these public equities at like 30x book. So maybe we should start valuing all these treasury companies at 30x book. Well, right now they're trading at like less than NAV to 1 or 2 NAV, right? It's wild. It's really wild to think about. And to Ed's point, anyone that's an expert, you can be an expert since Bitcoin was invented, but that's about it. And it's kind of silly, right? We're all learning, hopefully, every day.
Yeah, it's very clear we're in like this narrative creation moment and this narrative discovery period. But this is the question like hanging over all our heads is like, eventually, sometime in the future, is it 1 year? Is it 20 years? These things have to transition to being like real businesses, or do they? I don't know. This is an open question. You guys don't have to answer this, but where's your head at when people, ask like, when are these going to turn into actual revenue generating companies? What's your thought or response to this?
Well, why are they not revenue generating companies? Right? I mean, Strategy has proven that with their last 2 quarterly earnings. I mean, the gain on the Bitcoin is revenue. This is one of the topics at the conference that I think Ben and Jeff are really going to focus on, is that all the metrics are broken. You price earnings doesn't really matter quarter to quarter. You got to look at a 5-year trailing PE in order to understand a Bitcoin treasury company. So if the underlying business is existing and profitable, such a strategy, 500 million in revenue, I'm going to round, 75 million in profit. Okay, great. That's an underlying business, but it used to be a big part of MicroStrategy, and now it's this minuscule part of strategy. And so when you say, when does it become a real revenue generating business? I don't know if it has to, right? The gains on Bitcoin is the revenue itself. If there is that underlying business that's profitable, if it's Tesla or GameStop or whoever that can then buy more Bitcoin with that profits, then they should have a higher MNAV because they're able to acquire more Bitcoin outside of creative, intelligent leverage.
Yeah, I'll kind of double down on that. Jeff Walton had a post within the past week that was like, look, Donald Trump is actually known for being able to raise money and do deals with a negative net worth. What happens when people realize that these companies have the most bankable, the pristine collateral, the best collateral ever? Like, they have the money. Like, give me money so I can buy better money. And then 22 hours ago, right, on the strategy handle, on a rolling 1-year basis, MSTR has outperformed the Mag 7 stocks on every single day over the past year. That's just fact.
And don't worry, one or more of these Bitcoin Treasury public companies that you see on Bitcoin Treasuries Net is going to screw it up bad. Custody problem or bankruptcy of the underlying business or and it's going to affect them all, right? I'm not going to come up with the saying for that kind of situation, but when one of them that happens, the rest are going to get some of the stain, and we'll go through that, and then we'll push on to the next step.
Yeah, it's funny. Seasoned folks like you and I, Ed, we know something's going to break, and the entire industry will get a black eye, and that's part. Yeah, again, yeah. It's like my 5th black eye at this point. So just par for the course. Exactly, I'm taking punches left and right. So it's funny because we keep bringing up strategy. I don't hear other treasury companies' names dropped, and it does. One of my favorite questions is okay, so to what degree is it strategy versus other treasury companies? Is this a winner take most, winner take all, winner take some? How much of it is zero sum? I'm kind of curious, is Saylor leading a pack, or is he trying to, carve out the long-term market winner? What are your thoughts here?
Winner took 3% so far.
Yeah. Each one of these treasury companies is getting a piece of the pizza. And in a traditional industry, if you were talking about the tire industry, there's only so many tires that are needed. But in this case, the pizza is Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is growing so fast. Just imagine that pizza on the table is growing so fast that everybody's piece of pizza is growing. And so it's not a competitive landscape. And I think that's why Saylor, one of the reasons why he is so generous and helping with his time, and it's because he knows the pizza is growing and everybody's piece is growing.
It's interesting because it's not even my full-time focus, but I can tell that the meta for what the next play in the treasury strategy, not strategy treasury, but just the strategy of doing Bitcoin treasuries, the meta is shifting really quickly. And Saylor's leading it, issuing different types of preferred stocks. But what would you guys say the meta is right now? And where could you see it going? What are the next competitive edges you think that these treasury companies could deliver or offer to try to attract more capital?
I think and this narrative or this kind of explanation has been floating around for maybe a year or more now, but I think the reality of the companies being able to tell the story, okay, that's there, but these are largely what have been deemed zombie companies. But what happens, as Ben Workman would say, when you actually have a growth company adopt a leveraged Bitcoin treasury strategy. Like, I think that's one of the next iterations that people are going to be like, holy smokes. Maybe that's Bitcoin native, maybe it's not, but I don't think we've really seen that yet. Ed, do you disagree?
No. I hate all these phrases we come up with. It's like, oh, it's early and this and that. But the fun part is always that we have so many brilliant minds in this space. You go to, we all say this, that we're the stupidest person in the room, and we all feel like we mean it. It's like, especially when you go to OpNext, another fantastic conference. I'm definitely the dumbest guy in the room at OpNext. It is humiliating, but whether it's Nothing Stops This Train or now I can't wait till MNAV compression goes away. That one's just it grates on me. But we'll come up with these thought leaders who just kind of are powering through this and go, here's what it is. The other thing that I like doing is when this new thing comes up, when like ordinals, go back and search for the word ordinals on the Google Wayback Machine 3 years ago.
You'd get like a mathematical concept. Yeah. Like on Wikipedia or something.
Yeah. Rehypothecation was a word 5 years ago, but then on the Google Wayback, it just goes through the roof. And so we've got really smart people thinking about it. Sometimes these words stick, sometimes they don't. And we'll just keep chugging along. But to think that we're going to reach some point of stability on understanding Bitcoin and understanding its peripheral markets is a pipe dream. It's just, this is the roller coaster that just doesn't ever come back to the station.
So I have a delicate question I'm going to throw at you guys, and you can duck and weave, or you can answer it head on, take it wherever you want. But there's a Bitmex report recently, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, looking at these DATs, the digital asset treasury companies. They expanded it to all crypto treasury companies, where they looked at the management fees and the take by the folks who are spinning up these companies. They could be pretty large, like percentage of like assets under management. What are your guys' thoughts about this? Is the industry getting maybe a little over its skis or over exuberant, or is this a way that the companies can differentiate themselves? What are your thoughts on this?
Did you see that report, Tim?
No, but I mean, I think the obvious thing that comes to my mind is it's the new SPAC craze, right? It's like the new shiny thing. And, I just saw Jeff Park post that, within a year or whatever length of time, all of these alternative coin asset DATs, treasury companies, are going to say something like the smart ones will say, we're going to allocate 10% to Bitcoin. And you've already seen it. I mean, because it was 2, 3, 4 months ago, you already forget that Polkadot and something else said we're going to put some of our treasury into Bitcoin. Well, people, right, as soon as the announcement goes by their ears, they've already forgotten about it, and myself included, right? You can't really hold this in your brain, maybe chat or some other AI can. And it's that's already happening. It's going to happen more. You want to build your house on sand, to quote Matt Cole, but it's Bitcoin's where it's at. If you're going to go out the risk curve, yes, short term, if you're a trader, maybe that makes sense. But I just see it all coming back to Bitcoin the way it has every single cycle.
You guys got, you've plugged the conference a bit here coming up in, by the time this comes out, it'll be what I think 14, 15 days.
You're talking about the one on September 17th in New York City that you can find on the one on
September 17th in New York City.
Bitcoin Treasuries Unconference on Luma, that one.
Yeah. So, I mean, but, I'll kind of round out this conversation by asking you guys, what are you most excited to hear people talk about at your conference? Like, what kind of speakers are you excited to have lined up? What kind of conversations are you eager to platform? Because you guys are in the business of programming this. This is the definitive conference for treasuries. What are you excited for to see?
Yeah, I think just a couple days after Tim announced it, he got a DM from Saylor saying, I want to be a part of this. And, we had a call and we thought about it. We were, weighing the options, and we told them, okay,
Ed be respectful, respond immediately.
I said, tell him no thanks. We got Gladiator, but no, that was a joke. That didn't go through. No, so I mean, of course, that was thrilling, and he's going to do a keynote at the beginning. Then we'll have him on 2 separate panels. One of them with Brian Dixon and Mark Moss. I'd have to pull it up here, but we're going to have one on MNAV and all the metrics that are out there. We're going to have one on proof of reserves with Adrian Morris. We're going to have one on self-custody, whether that's actually an option. We're doing this in foreign markets. Why is it different than the U.S.? So, I mean, we're doing this town hall format, which is kind of because we feel like people have a little presentation and panel fatigue. And so we'll have a small stage in the front surrounded by tables and chairs. The thought leaders will get up and give their thoughts on the topic for 15 minutes. And then we'll have mics in the audience where people will, get to make comments. That's going to be incredibly risky, but we're going to figure out how to pull that off. We were thinking about having a huge gong. And then like 45 seconds, somebody just goes gong and we cut their mic. But it's going to be a format that you haven't seen in Bitcoin, which will be super cool. And we'll get some debate going on these topics because that's all we can do right now is debate. I just don't know anybody that could get up in front of a crowd and talk about Bitcoin treasury companies and be authoritative about it. When you go to OpNext, you got brilliant minds who are doing incredible research on the protocol. And you're like, okay, this guy's legit. He's going to tell us where he's working on but nobody can say that in the treasury world.
Yeah. Ed, do you want to talk about Adrian, not Adrian Morris, although we highly respect his work, Adrian Pruitt. I mean, for me, it's like when you get Bitcoiners together and you just do things, like that's what this event's going to be. It's like everybody's there because we're so intrigued. We're so, do your own research, not financial advice. We're so invested in Bitcoin and the ecosystem that we were on a call with other people on the production side of the business. And they literally said to Adrian, I cannot believe that you're on this call, that you're an Emmy award-winning producer and that you're going to produce a Bitcoin event. This is effing awesome.
Yeah.
We're pretty excited.
Yeah, it's going to be like the boom cameras and reverse angle cameras. And so, it's going to look like an MTV Unplugged meets a town hall, and it's going to be pretty sweet. But with the whole point of showing the interaction between the thought leaders on stage and the people in the crowd. And the topics were actually selected by the attendees. I was inspired by Tabconf, who puts all their content on GitHub and lets the actual attendees vote on what gets on stage. And so I took 20 topics. I sent out a survey. They all voted, and those are the 7 that made it.
Crowdsourcing the content for the conference. Very good idea. I'm a huge fan of that. Guys, it sounds like vibes are very high, as Stephen Lubka would say. The exuberance is palpable. We know that there will be trips and hangups ahead, but heads held high. We know this is Bitcoin. Any last words before we wrap up this conversation?
Yeah, we will be selling. The only merchandise we'll have is we will be selling paper Bitcoin at the show. So if you want to buy a Bitcoin, we will be selling them. It's like about $50 a sheet of Bitcoin. So paper Bitcoin will be available. For those listening after the date, I'm sure you can go and find the live stream and watch it and support our wonderful sponsors. We do have a bunch of great sponsors, been selling tickets, but this is one where you're going to want to say I was in the room. Very few conferences like that. 2021 Bitcoin conference in Miami was one of those I was in the room kind of events, right?
That was my first one. That was my favorite Bitcoin.
That's a good one for it to be your first one. Yeah.
But nobody that watched it on the replay understands that when Bukele announced it, the crowd was so loud you couldn't hear the rest of what he said. Right? Mm-hmm. And I had tears coming down my face. My 12-year-old son sitting next to me is like, "Dad, what's going on?" I'm like, "Oh crap, I got my son into a cult."
You're not wrong, but also it was a great time. Yeah.
But yeah, this is going to be one of those, you need to be in the room when this happens. And if you're in the space, I mean, if you're an investor and you're trying to figure out which of these treasury companies, you're going to be able to meet these people in person and shake their hand and say, which one of these do I trust? If you're a service provider, if you're looking to be an investment banker, a lawyer, or a custody agent for the treasury companies, you need to be in the room. And first and foremost, if you are a treasury company and you've got a story to tell, you need to be at this event telling your story, because there's going to be literally hundreds of millions of dollars of investment money in that room trying to figure out which one of these treasury companies to put their money into.
At least I'd say billions, but we hope that this event will be certain things. We don't know. All we can do is try to coordinate things, put things together, put everybody in a room. I mean, I remember from 2021 in Miami, right? Like just seeing Max Kaiser introduce Michael Saylor. Right, this is my first conference, keep in mind, right? And to see Jack Dorsey, when he was still the CEO of Twitter, when it was called Twitter, be on stage. And like the big moment for me was when he said, look, working on Bitcoin is the most important thing I could do with the rest of my life. And if I need to leave Twitter or Square or something else to do that, I'm going to do that. I was like, that's interesting. I mean, I even remember now here just thinking about, I mean, there was a protester and he just sat there and very calmly said, let her speak, let her say what she wants to say. And then he responded to it. And it's like, those are the moments that like, you can't like stage manage or choreograph something like that. I mean, maybe you can, I don't know. So it's like, those are the moments that like, when you're in the room, you're like, that's wild, right? It's how many years later, you're still remember those moments where you're like, there might be something to this. And so that's what we're hoping to create. And I think the live stream, is the next level, because then you have a couple hundred people in the room, but you have, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people also experiencing it at the same time, and obviously can watch it.
Yeah. Should we go ahead and do it, Tish? Should I make the special announcement? Yeah, I'm going to do it. Screw it. We will have a special session. I think for the first time in the Bitcoin world, Predator will be joining us on stage.
Yes, the Predator. Yeah, the famous critic.
To come and do just a session on stage and just let people kind of go at him or they. And no, Predator is not coming.
I guarantee you Predator's listening to this seething under his collar's getting hot. And shout out, Predator, we love you. Come on this podcast. I want to rip with you. So,
but we don't know either. Maybe Predator will be there, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe Predator's Sailor's alt, and he's manufacturing controlled descent. Boys, I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for coming on Bitcoin Season 2, and I will eventually cross paths with both of you IRL sometime in the future. Peace.
Thank you, Charlie.